And finally tonight, the war next door. Ari Srinivasan has our update.
The death toll keeps mounting in Mexico's drug war. Now, more than 45,000 dead since President Felipe Calderón committed the army and federal police to combating the drug gangs 5 years ago. Juan Grillo has been covering the drug war for our partners at the international news website Global Post, and now he's written a book, El Narco, Inside Mexico's Criminal Insurgency, an account of his more than 10 years investigating Mexico's criminal cartels. Welcome, Juan. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
First, put it in perspective. This is an actual war that's happening on the border with the United States. We talked about those incredible statistics of the people killed, but why should America be more concerned?
Well, when you see the situation on the ground, you see it's gone way beyond just criminal violence, and the numbers don't really do justice to this. I mean, you've seen incidents where there's mass graves with more than 200 bodies and single massacres of more than 72 people. That's more in many war zones. But what really brings it home is when I've had the chance to interview some of the players in this, some of the assassins, and you talk to these people who have committed many, many more murders than they can count, try and understand where they're coming from, and they see themselves as being combatants in a war zone. The only way they can explain this violence is because they feel like soldiers fighting in a war, doing things that have gone beyond the pale.
And how has it gotten this bad? I mean, Mexico's murder rate has tripled since Calderón took office, since he basically declared war.
Basically, in Mexico, where you had 71 years with one party in control of the country, controlling all the police forces and the military, now we've had this great democracy, and there was celebration 10 years ago, the same way we say celebration in Egypt and Tunisia and Libya now. But unfortunately, with the multi-party democracy, different political parties control different police forces, and often the police forces are actively fighting each other. We see some extraordinary things happening, like when in one state, prisoners were being let out of a jail to commit murders in a separate state, carry out massacres, and returning to their cells in the evening. So absolutely incredible things happening there.
Is there anything that the government's doing that's working?
Well, the government is effective in taking down the big cartel leaders. We see big figures like Arturo Beltran Leyva, a major international drug trafficker. With information from the US, the Mexican Marines gunned him down. But what happens is, when these kingpins are taken down, you get different rivals fighting over their empires. And because the drug trade is worth about $30 billion every year, selling heroin, crystal meth, marijuana and cocaine to American users, the rivals are keeping fighting over this bounty.
How complicated is this relationship between the United States and Mexico about the drug war?
It's very complicated, and we see this opening up a real can of worms when there's violence happening. We have, for example, the issue of American guns coming into Mexico and operations trying to trace American guns to Mexico, which have created real binational tensions. We also have American agents now in the book also profile one undercover DEA agent who infiltrated a Colombian cartel and the Mexican cartel on the ground doing kind of espionage work. Now, this kind of opens up all kinds of issues with the two countries. We saw obviously 2 American agents who were shot dead earlier this year on American soil.
In the middle of all this, they've got a presidential campaign coming up. How does that happen, and what's likely to happen?
Well, it's going to be very interesting to see next year what happens in the election. In my opinion, whoever takes power will change the strategy, will change the focus, because no president wants to be right now with 50,000 deaths, with accusations of human rights abuses by the military and so forth. So they want to change focus. One real risk is in the election, we see the criminal violence combining with the political tensions. So you see drug cartel hitmen being used by politicians to attack their rivals. And that could create a situation where it really does push this over the edge.
A kind of a personal question, considering that some of your sources that you've spoken to have already been killed, are you concerned for your own safety? Because there's been several Mexican journalists that have been working on this story, or different parts of this story, that have been killed as well. I mean, you know, the more your book succeeds on Amazon, the bigger the target gets on your back.
Well, it's definitely a very violent and intimidating environment for any journalist covering this in Mexico. When you talk to people who describe committing murders, I mean, you wonder about if they're going to like the coverage or not. Every time you come down and write or you edit a video, it's obviously the first thing on your mind. And for many of the Mexican colleagues, like you say, who are really exposed in the frontline states, it can be very hard to sleep and very stressful for many of these people. We have to all exercise a certain amount of self-censorship. We have to not include names, address of people, or things that can really affect their business. The idea of this book is to tell the human stories of people on all sides of this conflict, and to try and raise the bigger policy issues which won't affect or anger the cartels, but will help people make better decisions about how to handle this situation.
All right, Jon Grillo, the book is called El Narco, Inside Mexico's Criminal Insurgency. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.